Call the meeting to order. Finance Committee.
Liberty and justice for all. Pledging to the town for some reason. Okay.
All right.
Okay, everyone here is present except for Adam and Carrie, so that,
And Bill?
Oh,
And Bill.
and Carrie.
and Bill, what? Yeah, and Adam, yeah, so we got 3 minutes in.
That's for a minute, I remember.
Okay. Let's look at the agenda. Okay, so on the agenda is planning, zoning, board of appeals, parks and recreation, conservation, waterways, natural resources, and DCTV. So Gary, what do you?
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a continuation from last week's meeting, because we had quite a few departments on the agenda, and we also had presentations that were given, so it kind of ate up a little bit of the time. So tonight, we can talk about the planning, zoning, Board of Appeals, Parks, Recreation, Conservation, Waterways, Natural Resources, and DCTV. So I presented the budgets to you from Eunice. You have the information from the prior packages. I didn't resubmit those, so.
So that didn't, nothing changed?
No, nothing. And they're in order by the screens on the screen, so we can go through each individual budget in the packet that you have. So the first one is Planning Board. And again, we start with the salaries. The town planner is under the Steelworkers Union. So this reflects the steelworkers contract, the first line that you see there. She also has an assistant in her office who helps her with the daily activities. And then GIS is part of her salary. She maintains part of the GIS mapping system in town. And then the other salaries, I believe that's for, isn't that for training? Does she have training? Or certification?
Oh, no, that's a stipend. It's the GS salaries.
Oh, no, the next one. That's for other salaries.
Oh, other salaries, yeah, that's training,
Yeah, for training.
conferences.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the GIS salary is part of whose?
Planner.
So we have a stipend, this stipend's always been in place for GIS support. It's $5,000, and it goes to the planner and also the system analyst in my department. They both have
Oh,
GIS experience.
Oh, okay. So they each get $5,000, is that what you're saying, or they're splitting that?
They each get $5,000.
Okay.
So prior to that, one person was getting $10,000 to do that. Now we use the two of them and get quadruple the
Who's the
work.
second one doing it?
Chad Deschamps, the system analyst.
The system
System
analyst.
analyst.
Any questions?
The Steelworkers Union, that's all the management, department managers are part of the Steelworkers Union?
Not all department
no,
managers, but the majority of them.
Who's not?
The harbor master is not, the veteran services officer is not,
Conservation?
conservation, environmental affairs coordinator is not.
Are they contract instead?
Yeah, they have
All of
personal
the-
contracts,
okay.
yes.
All right, interesting. So the Steelworkers one, I know that was just renegotiated. So for 3 years, when did that start?
The last year is FY '25. So it starts again in FY '26, so that would be '23.
And what was it negotiated at for the raises?
3% for years 1 and 2, and 1.5% for year 3.
Great, thank you.
So based on that, though, the budget's going up 4.4% for salaries. So
Well, there's step increases.
step increases, okay.
And what is that? I mean, I know what it is, but I mean, what's the
The
amount?
steps approximately about 3%,
Another 3%?
yeah. So generally with all the collective bargaining units, there's a pay schedule. When we talk COLAs, there's this COLA, 3%, but they have step increases too. And generally those step increases are from 2.5% to 3.5%, depending on, and it's not static on each union. It really depends on the grade and step. So the
that
range
can-
is usually 2.5 to 3.5.
And does that vary each year?
No.
Or was
Well,
it
yes,
part of the contract?
It's static, but then everything goes up 3%. So if they get a 3% COLA, that whole pay schedule goes up 3%. So if on the pay schedule if they're grade 1 and they go from step 2 to step 3, that step increases 3%, and then on top of that, there's a COLA.
Okay.
Could you tell me the difference between training and education? There's 2,000, the education line.
This one right here, Terry? The first line?
The 1,450, I think you just said was training, right? Did I mishear that?
1,450. You're talking about the salaries?
The 1450, I believe, is her certification.
Yeah.
For
Yeah, it's a
certification.
certification, so anything that's, like any other position that's, has a certified individual, that gets paid out of their salary.
So it's 1,450 a year for her certification?
Like, my certification is 1,500 for collector and treasurer. It's both, but you can't, under Mass General Law, you cannot accept, you can't take both, so I couldn't get 3,000, so I get 1,500 for certification for a collector.
Why wouldn't that be lumped into the salary?
I guess for transparency, we show that those departments that have certified individuals is paid out of a separate line item. And that would kind of inflate the salary number if we included it in that.
I'm thinking just the opposite. That doesn't appear transparent to me, because if that's part of their salary, you know, bottom line, this one here, we're looking at 109, well, there's another 1,500 added to that. If they're, you know, under other salaries because they're certified, and just about, I would imagine, just about every manager position in town hall is, got some certifications. So, I mean, it's just me, I think it would be more clear if that was,
I
Well,
can
some may
understand
not
it.
have a certification.
Right, so-
DPW's, the
but
director.
the ones there are, and I'm sure there are many, we're not getting the true picture of what their salary is. If that's automatic because they get a certification, well, why isn't it just included in the salary line item?
I can understand it because it's a benefit to the town and not, it's not necessarily compensation to the person in charge. And to be honest, so
Well,
teachers
of
have
course
to
it
pay
is.
for their,
Compensation to the person in charge.
what's that?
It's going to that individual.
Well, it's required of that individual to do the job. And teachers have to pay for their own license, but I think it's like $100 every 5 years for a teacher. It's not, I don't know if we'd expect people who have that charge for license to pay for it themselves. I'm thinking that.
And it's just, you know, if you're trying to get somebody's true compensation, it's very difficult because you really gotta be able to drill down and understand, you know, what this is. You know, when you look at this other salaries, what does that mean? Looking at it, I didn't know that that is included as the director's salary.
Right. I agree with that. I
and-
think, yeah.
You know, so as far as transparency, we've got none, in my opinion, when you get something like this.
As a person who's held many certifications, I never considered that to be part of my salary. It was part of my experience level for sure, but it was never part of my salary.
So this
I mean, not only do we.
director of planning has to pay 1,450 to get this certification?
No, this is compensation for her maintaining her certification.
They pay for the certification for her.
But the town also pays for her to go to maintain her certification. So this is a stipend for her certification. But if we could take like longevity, for instance, let's say this person has longevity. If we included longevity in their salary, we'd be lumping in the complete salary. So I don't know, I mean, we can make the argument that we should do it or we shouldn't do it. I mean,
think
it's
the
easy
only
for us
thing-
to add it back in. We can do that. That's not
The
a,
only thing that's confusing is the category, to me, that's all, that it's other salary. That, to me, isn't as clear as
yeah.
what you've
I
explained.
mean, we could probably label that in munis stipend going forward. So anything that hits 51,150 will be will say stipend.
Stipend to who, though?
The-
So
the-
again,
The individual. The
doesn't-
department head.
we don't know that. When you look at this, if somebody's doing some research, it's not transparent where that stipend is going, if all we say is stipend.
Yeah. I mean,
I want to do a comparison of planners across the state. Pull up the the town website, oh, they get 109. Well, no, that's not true. They get 109 plus longevity, plus a stipend for GIS. So you're really not getting a true picture. And you can't drill down by looking at this. You have to ask the questions of the right person,
See,
to
like in my-
get those
in-
answers.
In my department, for instance, in my department, my assistants also get certification. So if they receive their certification, they also receive $1,500. So it would be, we would have to have separate line items or combine them all.
I don't know why the town does that. In the corporate world, I had positions that required certifications. It was included in my salary. You want that certification, the salary reflected that. We need a person with these skills, these certifications. There's your salary. That's what you get. And I don't know why we need to separate all this out.
Yeah, I think it
and
just
make
might be a
difference.
function of
I think
munis.
historically, and I understand what you're saying, it's just two ways of looking at it. And 5 years from now, we might add it in, and someone might say, the planner gets a stipend? Like, why isn't that broken out? So how do we not know, like, what their salary is? And I know what you're saying, but we see this a lot. We're like, well, how come she's getting or they are getting this extra benefit compensation, and we don't see it. We just see the number. So we want to see that broken out, because we replace planners, and this new planner is not certified. But they have do they still get that because it's in their salary? They might say, well, I deserve it. Well, you're not certified. So this way we say, well, if you're certified, here's the line item, you'll be reimbursed. If you're not,
But when we advertise
spent?
these jobs, we're asking for certifications.
well, the DPW director, their certification was a PE, and the Board of Public Works decided to remove that.
Right.
So it's
Well-
still part of the job description, and there was a stipend for the previous DPW director to be the PE. So that had to come out. So that was
So
separate.
it was removed?
Yes.
but I think,
The stipend was removed, yes.
Correct.
I think the way it's said is, it is transparent, because there's a line item for it.
No, but the description
Yeah, no.
doesn't tell you anything.
Well, that's what I mean.
GIS
That's what's-
salary doesn't tell you who's going to.
That's what's
The other
confusing,
salary doesn't
if you
tell
look
you
at
who's
it.
going
Yeah.
to. Longevity doesn't tell you who it's going to. So that's what I think with a little bit more description, I think would suit me better, where we're being more transparent and say, okay, this is very simple for me to do the math. All right, it's 109 plus 5 plus 1450. All right, that's what we're paying our director. And I'm not picking on the director. It's every position, I think, is like this, the way we break it out. And
I can follow up with our IT, our Munis vendor, just to see if that's even available.
That description to be a little bit more accurate.
All certification.
But it looks
Yeah.
like there's a character limit, or else you just choose to use code, because everything's shortened.
Yeah, so this is basically code, because we have to put
Okay.
names in there that are associated with each individual.
You'd be
And there is
changing
only
the
so many
categories,
characters
yeah.
in that field.
Right, that's
to
what
do
it
that.
looks
But
like.
we can find whether it's initials or at the time. We'd have to keep changing if people change roles.
Okay, anything else on that? Board of Appeals.
So ZBA is the next department. Again, clerical, we have one clerical person in that office, handles multiple boards and committees. Her salary is set by DTA contract.
Yes.
DTA contract. And she receives longevity, $450.
And the DTA contract is another 3-year at what percentages?
3% for 3 years.
Straight across?
Yes, so each year they get 3%.
And she's level funded her expenses.
Now, this is a department that could cause a lot of legal expenses for the town, and that's in the legal budget?
Yes.
Because this is the department that could have major legal expenses, right?
Well, we have it under zoning, but this position is one that you might recall we modified last year. So the position used to be an admin position providing support for only the zoning board. Now we changed the position, it provides support for zoning, conservation, planning, and then also the Historic Commission, which has had no staff support historically, no pun intended. So we still have it all under zoning, but they provide support to multiple departments.
Okay, so the conservation?
Yes.
Okay.
So is all the cost under the zoning
It's
board
all
of
under
appeals?
zoning, yes.
So historic doesn't, or conservation doesn't get a line item that's transferred to her?
No.
It all is under this umbrella?
Yes. So this, we talk about this a lot, especially with the staff. So if staff can do more and are willing to do more and take on more responsibility in a higher role, then we look to reclassify those positions. And this is one of those positions that we were able to provide more roles and responsibilities and, and get more kind of bang for the buck, so to speak, with the staff. So it's worked out really well.
Now, there's a period of time historically where conservation shared somebody with Board of Health. Is that still?
No, so what we did was, I think we talked about this, for the kind of, the secretary model is gone.
Gone,
So
okay.
this is something we're not looking to replace. So when we look at positions, we look to not replace. If we have those positions in place, fine, we'll have them, or we'll try to elevate them if they can do more. If they vacate, then we look to kind of mold it into another role that has more responsibility, can provide more service to the town for, a minimal increase. So what we've done in the health department is we've added inspectors. So they used to have 2 kind of admin positions. We eliminated those and we have 1 more inspector. So right now they have 3 inspectors. It's worked out really well. So they provide a lot of service. One of those admins used to provide some support to conservation, but there's the environmental affairs coordinator and there's the conservation agent. The agent was a part-time position, so we made that agent position full-time to pick up some of the admin support. And then we have the zoning administrative assistant providing other support. So we've actually given them more support overall, just not a kind of their dedicated admin.
All right, so it's really, it's a little bit more than clerical, that position, because it's a lot.
Yes,
lot to
much
know.
more,
Yeah,
yes.
Okay. Now, is Tim going to be here for, unless anybody's any questions on Board of Appeals? Is Tim going to do a presentation for Parks and Rec, or?
No, unless you wanted to have him, when he met with us, he didn't feel like he had to, unless you wanted to have him come.
Well, can we do conservation next, since we
Yeah.
talked about it?
Okay, so
So he's under contract, not in a union?
conservation?
Correct.
Yes.
Is there a
The
reason?
the environmental affairs coordinator is on a contract, the conservation agent is part of the DTA.
Is there a reason why he's under contract versus?
I mean, it's a historic, long reason.
Can it be abbreviated for an answer?
Yeah, so previously, the position was in DTEA years ago, but it's a management position, so it was kind of grandfathered to stay in there. And then when it came out, it's just a personal contract, so we had an agreement with DTA that would not be part, it's a management position, so it wouldn't be in DTA. So it was removed.
Does he have the option to join like the Steelworkers Union because it's
I can't
management?
comment on
I'm just
collective
curious.
bargaining, yeah.
Well,
I can't comment on labor relations, I can't recommend either way, or,
I'm not asking him to.
I know, Janine, it's not, it's a legal issue.
Okay,
This is not the legal issue,
Yeah.
but when you talk about positions in unions, out of unions, you can't just
Yeah.
discuss reasons why they should be in or out.
No, I wasn't asking for the reason why so much, it's just, was it ever in the union? It was never in the union, except for the DTA union, you're
Yes,
saying?
correct.
Okay, that's fine.
So in the past, the director used to talk about having so much paperwork to do that he's not out. Has that been resolved with this new clerical person?
No, it's resolved partially, but
Partially.
Everything that is submitted to conservation is online, so it's part of our online system.
Okay,
So they've adopted that 100%, so everything is submitted online. It's more, so, what the support the zoning admin provides is, preparation for meetings, a butters list, notifications, things like that. Checking, when they submit online, the admin can go through and just check to say, okay, they've submitted everything, they've put their attachments in, it looks complete, they'll approve it, and then it goes to the environmental affairs coordinator, then they check. So people can attach anything, but they go through and verify that she verifies that everything's been submitted properly and is ready to move to the next step.
He did comment about staffing in his narrative.
yeah, no, I'm just wanted to see if, I'm just trying to still understand the admin and how it applies. So, anybody else got any questions on that?
He's not here, so I think something's been resolved, because he's been here, I think, the last 3 years, right? Yeah. And that's about a 3% increase in salary for his.
On to the Parks Department?
So we met with Tim Lancaster, the Recreation Director, Parks and Recreation Director, and he's satisfied, he's level funded his budget at the bottom, his expenses. We can go over the salaries. So on his salary for the professional services, he is part of the Steelworkers Union. And under the clerical, we have one administrative clerk who's under the DTEA union. And then you'll see the next line item is his overtime budget. And then other salaries includes individuals such as truck drivers, the laborers, gate attendants, beach supervisors, and lifeguards. Which is part of the Schedule
So
E.
this doesn't include facilities? This is just Parks and Rec?
Yes.
Correct.
So facilities is still under select board,
Oh, okay.
the budget, and technically the staff, but we've kind of,
'Cause he does a lot.
it's part of his job and compensation is to do the facilities as well.
I think it's a good service to the town after listening to him this morning talk about what he manages in terms of facilities and the rec end of things.
Yes, definitely.
So is that his total salary, or does he have a salary someplace else?
No, that's the total.
Total salary,
yeah.
okay. And I noticed in 2023, there was $10,000 vacation that must have been paid out for vacation that wasn't taken? The nine.
For comp time. So
Bless you.
the position receives comp time, so he receives comp time as part, so anything over 40. So what we do at the end of the year to decrease the liability is to buy out the comp time.
So you buy, yeah. Yeah, I mean, one thing that, because I've attended some of these meetings, because I'm the liaison, was, and this is for facilities, but it amazed me that somebody in Parks and Recreation couldn't take all their vacation time. You know, obviously, they're really busy in the summer and not so much busy in the winter. So that really surprised me. But,
So is there no plan for that to happen this year? Because there's nothing
Well,
budgeted.
we've talked to all the departments multiple times in department head meetings to tell them that to kind of be cognizant of their comp time. We don't feel there's a need. Completely. There's times that there are, but sometimes, you know, they need to really think about it.
Do they have to get it approved by you before they take it?
Well, not if they work for an elected board, and this is kind of where it
yeah,
gets.
that's why I brought it up.
Yes, so, you know, we, you know, have made it known to the boards and the employees, but
Do elected boards have to follow the budget that's been approved?
yes, yes, so.
Not that I would suggest it, but I know in the outside world, there's a use it or lose it possible, you know, that's how it works.
Yeah,
I mean,
Unless
there's a hard deadline at some point. They go, well, sorry, it's gone now.
I agree.
I don't know if that even can
Yeah,
exist
this was
within.
not- Well, if there's any collective bargaining unit that needs to be bargained, and then
I
there's
get
always
that.
something
That's
for
what I
that, so-
figured was the answer to
Yes.
that. I just know from previous that,
Yeah, so it can be difficult to manage sometimes between contracts and elected positions, and just, you know, where, when you look at the charter, there's a lot of consensus and collaboration that's required to make the town run.
For the benefit of the public, can you give us a little summary of anything that's changing big in the Parks Department for this coming year? Is there any major
No.
changes or?
I don't know if Tim mentioned, last year, we implemented, well, 2 years ago, we did the online beach sticker
Yep.
program, which has worked out well, and there's some bumps to work out as
Yeah,
in relation to coming in to get the sticker or not. All the online sales go very well. Generally, the stickers are, the resident has the sticker within 3 days. Last year, we implemented an online recreation programming application that's worked out really well to help people sign up for summer camps and other programming. That, people jumped on that right away, filled up all the classes right away, so nobody, there used to be a line out the door, nobody comes in anymore. And it's interesting, when you look at demographics, that's mostly families, and they do everything online, and no one came in, and everything went really smooth, so that was great, and we've done that again this year. And then a good part about this application that they've implemented is it allows for scheduling. So we talked about this morning with the pickleball courts, and just all the recreation facilities getting more use, and there will become a need to schedule these facilities out more. This provides that opportunity to do that, so it's great. It's worked out really well.
Groundskeeper's gone up 3,000. Is that the police department and the library being added?
I think we've moved over, I think that,
Decreased, let me see.
we've consolidated all of the facility staff. Last year, you know, they were broken out, and we haven't increased really unless it's contractual. We had custodian under the COA budget, custodians under the library budget, so we've moved them all under facilities.
Yeah, he's increased, excuse me, he's decreased the maintenance, I think, for the recreation and playground, for the playground.
Yep.
Now, all the playgrounds are complete, right?
I think so, yes.
There's one that's being redone, right, that he's requesting in capital. The one over by.
Community
Cushman's.
park, that's right. But I think that's just the surface.
Okay, so yeah, but the
The equipment is.
equipment and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. The, it's not, you don't have it in there, but it's in the notes that were given, bucket revenue and expenses. And when you look at the profit every year for the bucket. 2019, it was 7,400. 2020, it was 18,000. 2021, it was 19,000. 2022, it was 22,000. And then 2023, 15,000. So it was a big drop off in the profit, and I think, I believe this, a lot of that had to do with the cost of the food. Because, you know, you go to the supermarket, it costs more, so they provide food. I'm not so sure, I don't think it happened last year, but the year before, they had a lot of people that didn't work at the bucket, that were supposed to work, and they ended up taking staff to fulfill that thing. Has it ever been considered that we just rent it out to somebody and let them run it themselves and pay us rent?
We've talked about that. I think in the past, it was done like that. I think the vendor they had in place, they weren't happy with. I think it was a few vendors. Tim can speak to that. And they feel like they can do a better job running it, so they have. That year, there was a long-term manager of the bucket who retired. They found a replacement, but that person just didn't work out. So there was a lot of turnover then, and that manager position needs to be certified, food service certified. So it wasn't like you could just replace that position. But they were able to kind of fill the need, but that was a rough summer. It was getting busier. We were coming out of COVID. You know, it was hard to hire. People were coming out more, so I think they've stabilized that, and last summer they had a really good summer. They've also implemented a new online ordering system at the bucket, which has worked out tremendously in all regards for.
It's going to be a drive-through?
There's the ability to order online and go and pick it up. They just
Well, I
have
know,
not-
but I meant, I have to get out of my car? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah. Well, maybe it's part of our feasibility study for Dias Landing, we could do that, right?
There you go.
So things have stabilized, and like I said, it's a much more efficient operation, so it's worked out really well. And they're doing a lot more business with less staff, too, so that's been great.
How do they do more business with less staff, that kind of business?
Their revenues have increased, and they
Yeah.
don't have the same amount of staff as they used to.
Yeah. Good, Jenny?
I noticed in the original packet, there's the park board goals and objectives, which is a very ambitious list of things they'd like to do. I'm not critiquing the list at all. It'd be interesting to know what the timeline might be for that list. Because there's some pretty ambitious things on there, like equestrian parks and pools, which are wonderful, but
Probably should have.
what's the
Tim here.
timeline?
Probably should have Tim here.
That's all, just a curiosity. I mean, it'd be wonderful, but expensive.
The timeline for the pool? Yeah. I'd like
Timeline
to-
for
I'd like
any
to
of
know
it,
that as well.
frankly. I mean, I understand, because I've seen the requests for things like this.
Have to add that to our long-term capital plan, pool and equestrian park?
Has any of this been proposed in the capital plan? Anybody? Sarah, you're on that,
no.
right? No?
No.
Okay, then I'd really like to know the timeline for this.
Yeah, I really wish we had Tim here, because like one of the questions, last year they had problems getting lifeguards. You know, is that going to be an issue this year? I think we had to actually pay for lifeguards to get certified last year, if I remember right, so I don't know what the status of that was.
I don't know if, I think they were able to fully staff the lifeguards last year. And I haven't, you know, I meet with him, he hasn't mentioned that he thinks he's gonna have an issue this year.
And when he met with us, I mean, I met with John and I don't think there
He
was.
didn't say anything.
Surprise, doesn't everybody want to be a lifeguard? That's like the optimum summer job.
Not anymore,
Really?
no.
Unless you live in Miami.
What's that?
Unless you live in Miami.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I kind of wish Tim was here, but, anybody else got any questions on Parks and Rec?
I just think that if we wanted people here, we should make the request, because I think we said we were going to try to not have people come unless there were changes in the
Yeah, no, I understand.
budget.
That's it.
I think he would probably take emails if there are any specific questions,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, it's more about the timeline for that, but, I can live without knowing that. For now.
Yeah. Could have him email.
Okay, waterways.
Okay, so the waterways budget is, again, professional salaries. He's, by contract, he's not in the union. He's set by contract. And then the professional other, he's got the clerk in the office. And the
Assistant harbor
Sorry.
master.
Yeah, assistant harbor master,
masters.
yep. And then his longevity is $800, and he gets a clothing allowance of $1,300.
So the budget for waterways is, this is an enterprise fund, it's coming down, right?
What was that, Mr. Chairman?
300,810 requested, and last year revised budget was 306,314. So his budget actually is coming down.
Yeah, and
this
the line
year.
item was, let's see, this one here, I think he moved one around.
So I'm trying to figure out, when you compare the 2024 budget with 2025,
Yeah, he had an
it's really
increase of,
salaries that he's got coming down, and I guess that clerical other, 12,000 is gone. That's really the difference, right?
yeah, he didn't combine that with another
Is that going to come back,
position.
that clerical position?
Yeah, in '23, you'll see that it wasn't used, fiscal '23. There was 0 for the actual.
He only lists, he doesn't list
24.
that as one of his employees.
Let me see what that's for. Les.
Yeah, no, the only thing he has listed is the, himself, assistant, and the,
And the
Clerical.
temporary ones.
Yes.
Whatever.
The,
yeah, and then I think that offsets some of the little smaller increases that he has at the bottom here.
yeah, no, I saw
look
that,
at the-
yeah.
Repair and maintenance of the boat, building rental.
So, I know one of the big efforts they have to, one of the big efforts they have to do is getting out the invoicing for the moorings and, waterway fees and stuff like that. So, is that being done here? Is that why it's not?
He does that himself
Okay.
on the, and we do the collections here for him in the office. So then he comes up to us and does the turnover for the department. We did look at putting that online through our Invoice Cloud online platform.
Yeah.
And for a lot of what happens with the harbor masters, it's timing, because in order for him to issue a mooring, excise tax needs to be paid. There's certain set by statute. So
Yeah,
these
yeah.
things have to be done before he issues gives the blessing for the mooring. So when we did explore it a year ago, it wasn't feasible to do it at the time, but I thought he was looking at another piece of software.
We're
Do
looking at, that's next on our system analyst list for next year. The whole mooring database system, put that online.
The wait list, I know he does the wait list.
The wait
Which is
list,
a lot of work.
the purchasing, the moorings, the payments, everything,
Yeah.
the notifications.
Yeah, because there is quite a bit of notifications that are involved with the.
Yeah, multiple times too.
And so the timeline on the marina, obviously is going to be past 2025, right?
I think probably in 2025.
The capital side will be
Yeah, I think that the schedule, construction, I think probably the fall of, what are we in, 24, losing it? Yeah, probably the fall of this year,
Okay,
they might start. There's a window that they need to stay within to do the construction.
Okay.
And I think that's in the fall sometime, then winter comes, and I think they have another window in the spring before
all right.
the shellfish start to spawn.
Okay, yeah, because of the shellfish. So if they started in the fall and it's ready to go in the spring, then they'll have some revenue in the spring from the marina. I'm not sure how you can have marina and not add additional staff, but we'll see when it.
Well, he has funding for, I think, up to 12 seasonal staff. So he has the funding to hire the seasonal staff.
Yeah.
You know, he hasn't hired them in the past, but, so,
Okay. That's under other salaries, that's the, in other words, it's just 2 people, right, full-time?
he's got 2 full-time, a part-time admin, and then I think he hires 2 seasonal harbor masters.
Okay.
It says assistant harbor masters currently 7. What does that mean then?
Well, those are the seasonal.
Okay, but yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, part-time.
I don't know if there's actually, I think he's funding for 7.
Okay, that's what I was asking. Because I didn't think it was 7 of them.
Yeah.
Anybody else got any question on waterways? Okay. Guess we should have done natural resources with conservation, but.
So the professional salaries, 14,000, is that's Steve's? 14,000, they have, is that a warden? Do we have a shellfish warden?
Yes.
Yeah, and then they have a deputy shellfish constable who gets paid the 5907
The shellfish,
incentive.
yeah, the shellfish warden is not part of the enterprise fund. So that's why it's broken out like this.
But that is,
It's part of the
that's
harbor
paid the
master
harbor
salary.
Yeah, harbor
master,
master.
right?
Yeah.
So if you take the harbor master salary and this, that's the salary.
Total, correct.
And one is general fund, one's enterprise. And then there's a clothing allowance. And he's level funded his expenses.
Any question on natural resource? All right. DCTV?
Okay, DCTV, we have a professional salary that he is under the Steelworkers Union. And then his staff is governed by the DTEA contract.
How many staff in the second line, Gary?
I didn't get the report, I think it's
Full-time staff? He has 3.
3.
Does he have part-time?
Yeah, a few part-time. Some camera operators that help with the games and things like that.
Are the part-time under other salaries? Or does the 212 cover all 5?
No, I believe they're under the other.
Oh, yeah, the 212 is his full-time. And you'll notice on his expenses, he's decreased the legal, which is the biggest piece of this. I believe it has to do with the Comcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that contract was settled, the franchise agreement contract.
So he's decreased the budget by that.
So that legal cost is specifically for the contract, and it's been settled
Yes.
for 3 years or
No, 10.
10.
10? And it's Comcast?
That means we have Comcast for 10 years.
Well, no one else has approached us about.
I know.
We do have the broadband committee that's looking at,
Yeah.
possibly the town providing it one day.
Understood.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
I happened to be sitting in with Gary when the director came in, and I had asked the question about I realize he's not staffed up to do this, but the question of possibly making this a revenue-generating operation in terms of being able to serve or sell Dartmouth TV services to towns that don't have
Yes.
TV services. I realize he's not staffed up to do it, but has anybody taken any research on to see whether this might be actually a revenue-generating possibility?
Yeah, so we've had some discussions about that, but particularly in light of, we were renegotiating the Comcast contract, and we weren't, the Comcast contract, the way it works is that we get a portion of the cable television revenues. We don't get internet or streaming or any of that. So our concern was, well, if people are kind of cutting the cord, they still have Comcast service, but they don't have cable television. I think with the streaming, we saw that a little bit, probably 2 years ago, but I think people are going back to just cable internet because there's so many streaming services. I think it's saturated. There's some frustration. So we've seen the revenues from Comcast stay steady and our revenue stay steady. Prior to that, we were having conversations about DCTV provides a phenomenal service compared to most of the state. And if the revenues from Comcast were to decrease, what would, be some options? That was one of them, to approach other communities.
Well,
So
I guess what
we
I'm
still
asking,
do that.
I'm asking to be proactive, perhaps? I realize he's not staffed for it.
No,
But, I mean,
it's
so
on the list. I mean, so we were dealing with the contract, and now we're doing the broadband study. So I think once this broadband study's done, it's something we'll start to pursue, is providing that service.
So
Because,
is that early days to talk about how you might do that, or getting a project going that could be
oh, yeah,
followed?
definitely. I think, that's something we would do, like I said, after the broadband study's complete and there's some sort of plan, we'll see where that goes. And then we'll work with, Peter at DCTV to kind of look to provide services.
So when is that study going to be complete, roughly?
I think in the next few months.
All right.
Anybody else have questions on DCTV?
No, they do a great job.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it for today, for the things, okay. So the future, the big budget's gonna be coming down the
Yeah.
line here, so you wanna
So
talk a
I can
little about
update this. This is a little outdated. I've got some new dates. So Dartmouth Police will be in on 2/29. DPW will be in on 2/29 for water, sewer, trash also. The Dartmouth Public Schools will be in on 4/4. And Town Administrator and Building will be done on 3/28, and Finance will be done on 3/28. So my plan is to have Schedule A to the committee on 3/28.
Did you mention the schools?
So what do you got on the screen? The
schools,
dates
yeah,
are
the
different.
excuse me.
That's the internal review?
No, this is to.
These dates have changed. That's the.
Yeah, these dates, the dates that I've just given you are the correct dates. This is because I had to change some of these dates today because of availability. But these are the presentations to the committee, yes.
So you're going to try and do police and DPW at the same meeting?
Yeah, the availability is kind of, I mean, we're trying to work with them to, when they begin the department, sometimes their availability is,
So there's no meeting on March 7th?
no.
No?
And
simultaneously, like Terry mentioned, we're meeting with capital, so we're working on the capital items.
when will the because it's really important for us to understand the capital before we vote on the final budget.
Well, we have capital for the next few Thursdays in March, and then we hopefully will wrap that up mid-March maybe, and have a schedule for them, for capital to review in the aggregate for the departments that have been done their presentations, and hopefully by the tail end of March, we'll have capital, would have voted on some of the presentations that were given. That's kind of what I'm envisioning. I don't know if they'll want to make changes to that schedule.
Okay, so just to read, to review this, Dartmouth Police, 229, DPW Waterways, Sewer Trash, 229. Nothing for 37.
Nope.
Town Administrator and Finance, 328, and the school's 440. So does that mean we have nothing for 314?
The school is 328.
Other schools are 4-4.
Oh,
He
4-4.
changed that today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
April 4th?
April 4th, the schools. I confirmed that today.
Okay. So it doesn't look like we have anything for 317, 314, and 321, right?
Correct.
Ouch.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll have the Schedule A completed by 3/28 for the committee to review.
But how can you have the Schedule A ready if the schools?
It'll be a draft.
It'll be
So
draft.
if we have to make,
And
if,
the numbers that we see on April 4th for the schools will be.
correct. Will be reflective
in
in
that
that.
Schedule A.
Correct.
So they'll do their presentation, but the numbers will be in, so I'm sorry, Schedule A is what was it?
3/28.
328.
I have a question.
Go ahead, shoot.
The presentations that we saw, it was last week, I had hoped would have adhered to that form that we agreed, but they didn't. So what's your expectation on the rest of these major departments adhering on some level or fully to that form that we had agreed this budget go around?
I mean, I think they will, you've seen the police presentation in the past.
Yep.
It covers quite a bit.
Yep.
So I think it's gonna cover everything that you're requesting. The DPW, I can tell you, is probably gonna be the same report that you've seen annually. That's their template that they've stuck to. Now, we'll ask him to kind of, provide some of the information that's been requested in the new form. And then the other departments, yes.
Well, what I'm most concerned about
The
is that.
school, I don't know if you're gonna get that from the school, to
I'm,
be honest.
well, I'm pretty sure we
Yeah.
won't, based on past performance. But what I'm primarily concerned about is grouping the supporting projects for the major objectives, and then finding out what expenditures and what major programs support those objectives, and whether they're operating effectively and efficiently. And not from a point of view particularly of trying to screw down the budget, but to make sure that they have the money to do the job and get the results that they want. So if you have any sway in terms of how they present, I would love to be able to see, for instance, say the police department, the three major projects that they spend most of their money on, assuming they have the Pareto rule, 80-20, and then find out how they're doing on those things, and if they're going to run into major projects or major problems on those projects, or whether things are going really well and with a little more funding they could go better. So that's what I'm really looking for. And based on last week, it's very difficult to do this job and make a recommendation to town meeting when you don't have that sort of information. I mean, all we see, essentially, are these Schedule As.
Well, one thing we talk about internally is, it's a change for the departments, so not that change is bad, it's a good thing. I think a few years ago, the committee asked for more metrics, and I think the first year that the committee asked, they were not really pleased with what they were getting. Some were better than others, just like this, and I think the next year, you saw an improvement in the metrics and what they provided. I think this is a change for the departments, not that they can't handle it, and frankly, we've talked about it, they should be able to provide what you're asking. Some are better than others, obviously, so I think this is their first pass at providing it in the format that you want it. I think they look at it, and I know what you're saying, but they also look at it like, well, we're providing it already, they just wanted a different format.
But the piece, I don't want to beat it to death, but
No, but they can provide it, and I think you'll see next year, there'll be an improvement there too.
The
It's not
piece-
like they can just pivot and provide you exactly what you want
Well,
every year.
I've been asking for this since I looked at the form when I put it together. It was March of 2020, so it's been 3 years. Just commenting. And what I'd really like to be able to see is when they give what I'm essentially asking for on the projects are the metrics on how well those projects are doing and and I don't understand. That's the only way you can manage things, by measuring. That's my only comment.
I almost feel like we have to give a very specific example. Pick a department and show them what it could and should look like. Really, maybe that would be helpful.
I could,
Just saying.
Yeah, we talked about that, and meeting with the departments, they've been given a lot of feedback on the form. Some, positive, some maybe, questionable, but I think this is a change, definitely a change for what they've done, some of them for
No,
decades.
understood
Yeah,
that it's
and
challenging.
maybe that's the goal, maybe that's what we do. We use one example.
But even
as a-
from a form standpoint, this is getting really picky, I know, but, so you very nicely printed this all out, right, Gary, for us, 100 pages of paper. Once those pages got mixed up, it was a problem, because there's no numbers. There's no way to know which page belonged to which group until you started reading. Because there's a heading, and I said it's picky, but there's no heading, there's no page number. If you do a report, and I'm sure we've all at some point have done a report, you have page numbers, or you carry over with such and such topic continued, you know what I'm saying? So when you pick up a random page, you know exactly where it belongs. As I said, it's a structure thing. That's why I said, if we gave them an example of a template, and the other thing I noticed is, there were instructions with them. So all the instructions are in there with their data. It gets really cumbersome to read when you see all the instructions and the list, and then one sentence of their input. Maybe the instructions should be on a separate page from us.
I just want to say one thing. What I think, what Brian's and we are trying to accomplish is important, because it's important for the people who listen to this to hear what the departments have to say and what their goals are, because you may know them and you may know them, but I think it's important for the confidence of the taxpayer when they see this on DCTV, that they say, oh, okay, this is their goal and this is the direction. So it's a communication. It's not just for us, it's for the audience also. And it gives them a better understanding, and it'll make town meeting more educated when it comes to looking at the budgets. Since I've been on here, the big consistency is Munis. You've been Munis a long time, and, we're familiar with it, and sometimes we see things and we forget, and we need to be reassured on certain things, but, we just don't want to be sitting there looking at the differences of a line item from one year to the other and asking for explanations. We want to say, okay, we're spending $10 million on DPW. What is that department doing and what their goals are? So, Terry, do you want to say something?
I just wanted to ask this group if there are any budgets that we've received that we are satisfied with.
That we what?
Are there any budgets that any proposals that we've received this year that we're satisfied with?
I would say the library.
Library?
Yeah, I'd say the library.
She is and was exceptionally thorough.
Yeah.
I think
But
that-
again, in my opinion, if we had it based on major projects assigned to each, to the objective of each department, these meetings would take half the time that they take. And we'd be asking questions. So off the top of my head, I could think of one for the school committee. If they reported on the graduation rate on an annual basis with a trend line, and they asked for more money, which they did this year, and the trend on the graduation rate was going down or up, that would give us the question, that would give us the ability to really question, say it was the graduation rate was going down, but they requested more money. That would give us the ability to ask some really good questions about, well, are you funded well enough? What's affecting that number? And similarly with the DPW and the rest of the major departments. So it would I think it would be less painful sitting through this. You wouldn't have to go through the line items that we do on the munis reports. And we would get a good idea of what's actually driving or not driving the departments and whether they're achieving goals and whether they're running the departments effectively and efficiently. That's why I want them.
I think we're preaching to the choir. It's
Okay.
how do we translate this to the folks who actually do it?
I think one of the comments that was made, maybe we morph this into like a fillable form or something that's maybe easy for them
I know
to
what
do
you're
and
saying.
want to do. And something that gets to the next level, where they can attach things to this form or they can,
Okay.
that's what I
So let me
envision.
bring up another point. When I put this thing together back in March of '20, I offered your predecessor to sit down and discuss it. He didn't think it was a good idea. You came in, you're new to this whole process. I didn't push it. The second year, I pushed it a little bit more and asked the administration whether they wanted me to sit down and we could actually have a discussion to amend the actual form and get something everybody would be happy with. Nobody took me up on that.
Do you have the ability to, it's one thing to create a form, that's easy, honestly, but to make it so it's a fillable form online if you were given it? You know what I'm saying? So it could be an online, like a fillable PDF, that type of thing? Because I think that would
Yeah, that might be
make it really simple. And then the instruction sheet, because I'm really sick of reading all of Brian's instructions.
There's only one page. There were no instructions.
No, but they're all, no, but it's, whatever. It's in every paragraph, how to do it. Anyway, would that make it simple for them?
I think that making it easy to use and the ease of use for the department heads
Oh, yeah.
would be a tremendous help to them.
All right.
Only my opinion. I think that's kind of the feedback that we're getting.
It's fair.
Go ahead, Joe.
I can certainly feel Brian's pain. If he asked for this in 2020, 4 years ago, and we finally made some progress, that took way too long, in my opinion, to get to this point. I've only been here 2 years. But, so here's my second year. We've made some progress. We're at least getting something. I don't think any of us were happy with a lot of the results. And I think going forward, administration, this shouldn't fall on our shoulders, volunteers, to have these departments come in here and get tough with them and say, hey, you know, you didn't do this right, you didn't do, that's administration's job. So I think next year, we need to put more focus with administration, how important this change is, and it's the right thing to do, and I think you both agree that it's a good thing to do, but put it on your backs to say, it doesn't get by you. These reports never should have got to this point if they weren't 100%. Again, it's the first year, I get it. Next year, they shouldn't get by you. They shouldn't be presented to us unless they're 100%. That's my feeling. 4 years is way too long. They've got a feel for it now, and I think it's on the two of you to make sure next year it happens.
Well,
And
I mean,
that we're not sitting here.
I will say, Gary and I meet regularly with the departments and the department heads. We know what their goals are. We know where they're at with their goals. So we're not, you're not getting the information that you want in the format you want it. It's not that we're not aware of what's going on and what their budgets are and how they're operating and what their goals are. So I just want to clarify that.
No,
because
I'm not.
My interpretation of what you're saying
I'm
is
not
that we're
accusing
just
you of
like,
that.
oh,
I'm just
whatever.
saying, next year, you folks are the administrators. You know what's required. Make sure it's done before it gets to this point. In my opinion, it never should have gotten by you in the first place.
Well, it didn't.
And I'll let it-
John, it didn't get by us. We are very aware of the goals and objectives of all the departments. And we
No,
work
I'm
with them
talking about the
on a daily
format we
basis. Now,
requested.
The format you requested, we, just like the
And-
metrics, we asked the
and if you
department
require-
heads to provide this, and they've provided it. Now, you want it more detailed, okay, and like, we go back to the metrics, the first year you weren't completely pleased, the next year it got better. Next year it's gonna get better. So.
Yeah, and I'm hopeful on that. If you call, beginning of the year, we made it a mandate. Brian, said it again, hey, I've been asking this for 3 years, and the committee made it a mandate that this get done. In my opinion, that falls on the backs of you folks to make sure that mandate gets done. And here we are sitting here, and not all of it got done. And I'm not questioning, you don't know. That's not what, you're taking it the wrong way. If you think I'm questioning, you don't know what's going on in those departments. We don't know what's going on in those departments. That's why we're asking for that information in a summary form.
And don't forget, we meet fairly regularly, but town meeting only meets twice a year. So it has to be digestible on some level, and on the current level, I don't think it is, to town meeting members.
And you made my point when you said, Gary and I, we know their goals, but what we're trying to do is say, okay, take that, bring it through us, and give it to the town meeting members, town people who are listening to us. I think that's the whole point, and that's why I think it's so important. All right, anything else? Anything else on that, or?
I just want to say that some of the information that I've received, I've been satisfied with, and over the years, I think things have improved, and I think our challenge is, as people have said tonight, how do we make this digestible to the town meeting? And in order to do that, one of the things that I'd like to see is FTE reports, because when I look at budgets, I wonder how many staff is that we're talking about. I think that's good information for people to have. It's not easy getting, as I've talked with you about it, Gary, Munis does certain things to try to make that work. I think the thing with the reports from the departments on the template, I just have so much experience working with staff, sending them, please send me this in a format, and they put all the instructions on it, they don't remove them. I mean, I get that, and I think there might be some confusion on the department head's part about, I don't think anybody wants to feel like they have to do busy work, or they have to do certain things in a specific format just to make us happy. I think we've communicated that what we're looking for is goals, what are the major objectives that have been accomplished, and what's coming up in the next year. I don't think that's a lot to ask for, and it's just a matter of how do we get them to do that. I don't think anybody's questioning whether they're doing a good job. We're not looking to, go through that, but It's a matter of educating people and getting people to a place where we are, because we're here every week, we know what's going on. We're trying to get that information to the town meeting in a way that's digestible. When we write our recommendations, we stumble sometimes because we just don't have some of the information that we need. So in that way, I do agree with some of what people have said. I have seen improvement. I appreciated Amy sending that information out after
Yeah,
the fact.
appreciate that.
Last
Thought we
week, that
told
was
us we have to.
helpful.
No, I didn't, she wanted to
Okay.
submit it, so.
Yeah.
I think a couple of takeaways, I think that maybe we use one of the departments as, the model, and we make the form easier. Maybe we look at putting it online, I think that's a great idea. And, having deadlines set that we review the form, and then after that, if we see internally the form is not to standard, then we have them rework on it. So I think that's maybe the model going forward.
Google Docs might be better than PDFs, just because they're accessible to everybody. You can put up a page. You probably have
whatever
other
works.
ideas.
Yeah, I know Chad is, systems analyst has helped me out a lot with a lot of the forms that we do. And he's pretty well versed on the. Yeah.
Google Docs is tough. You have to have a Gmail account, and we
okay.
have Outlook and Microsoft, so not everyone has that.
All right,
And just to follow up to the FTE, I know Terry had asked about this for the last meeting. I am working with our payroll person downstairs, and we're going to put something in draft form. I just need to review it before we have it submitted to the committee, and then we can take a look at it.
Like some of what we learned tonight about Parks and Rec, for example, it'd be good to know, in that org chart, so helpful, because you see, okay, this is the person in charge, these are the people they supervise. It just helps us understand what's going on in the department.
Yeah, and what I envision, like an FTE report, to look like, you buy department, let's say fiscal '21, you've got this many people, fiscal '22, so you can carry it forward to say, okay, now, where are we compared to 5 years from now? And have it on a running schedule per department. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, just so we have basic head count. So I'm working with a payroll person right now for that.
would that be part of the Munis thing that the HR is working on? The full-time equivalent, was that?
This is something we can extract from Munis, according to what he said.
Okay.
I just need 5 minutes to go down there
I mean-
and look at it.
A lot of the companies I've worked for in the past, at the end of every month, you get a FTE report, that says, these are the people on, workers' comp, these are the people that got laid off or terminated, these are the new hires. And it's just kind of a summary, but in back of that summary is the detail, so that's kind of a management tool. Okay, anything else? We want to go on to liaison reports?
Can I just ask a question about the schedule? Because it seems like we don't have meetings for 3 weeks,
Yeah?
and I find that disturbing, because is there anything we can start to plan ahead on? Like, I don't know, letter to the town, something that we can start to format? Because we'll end up with no time at the end.
Yeah, we don't have enough
I
information.
don't think we'll have them in the next few weeks now.
I mean, I'm really interested in the capital planning thing. I really,
You mean
The-
the
the short
10-year,
term?
the 10-year
10-year.
thing?
Oh, okay.
Not the normal
But I
5-year.
thought he said not till the end of March, is that correct?
Well, you're speaking about the long-term capital planning?
5-year or 10-year?
Oh, okay.
Which one?
Well, are they giving a report to the select board?
Yeah, so we're giving a report to the select board on Monday, and I can certainly give the presentation to the FinCom the next time we meet.
okay. Because to me, that long-term capital thing is kind of the backdrop for everything that we're
Yes.
working on in the thing. So
And for us too, Bob.
I'll probably listen to the select board meeting.
Yeah. I said, and for us too. I mean, it's the big thing, and it comes into every conversation, so. And the capital, I'm on the capital committee too, and they've been meeting and reviewing. Today, we reviewed police department and the Parks and Rec. So they're collecting right now just what people are requesting, and then at the end, they have to sit down and figure out how they're gonna spend what little money we have, because we don't have a ton.
And we met with DPW.
Yeah. Oh, DPW, we heard,
Yeah,
last
and
week.
we're meeting with schools on 3/7.
Yeah.
So then we'll have a small, at schools, DCTV,
For capital. right?
yeah, and then Harbor said he didn't have to come. And MIS.
Just out of curiosity, going back to schools, Did you share that format with them? You did.
All the departments received it, yes.
It was also in the budget memo.
Sorry.
So we're still at having no meetings for 3 weeks?
I'm a little nervous.
Can we
about that.
circle back to that?
Because I just,
Seems like there's something.
it seems like we're ahead, but now we're gonna be behind if we miss 3 weeks.
I don't know, did you want me to put something on the agenda?
We have to vote on the warrant, right?
Yeah, so the warrant articles won't be done.
I mean, yeah, they won't be done before the end, well, probably later in March,
So late March?
yeah.
Is there a deadline on when the warrant articles must be submitted? What is that?
I don't have the calendar, they've all been submitted.
Okay.
Now it's drafting some of the wording.
But is there a hard deadline? What if I were to, I'm not going to.
For the
But what
public-
if I were to write a
The
warrant
deadline
article?
is passed for the public,
Okay, there you go. So that's one deadline.
and that's kind of where it gets confusing. We have our town meeting calendar, it's mostly for the public, and then internal, we talk about it, we know, like CPC, we know they're gonna have articles. Now, do we have the wording yet? No, but we know that's probably within the next month, we'll have that.
Yeah.
Planning, I think they have an article or two. So, and then the others that we have in place that.
Well, sometime, and I think this happened last year, is the wording wasn't final, but we got to see the drafts, which we don't necessarily vote on them, but we get a sense of what the questions might be, and can discuss it without voting.
And we can put together like a list of what we're looking at, the kind of the first page, just what we're looking at for articles. We could probably do that one meeting and kind of talk through what we're anticipating.
That would be good.
Okay.
And it can be, we can do that, be the later one, like March 21st. Work our way back. I just really hate having no meetings, because I feel like we have so much we end up having to accomplish.
So what is the date that we have to get? There's two things we have to get to the town clerk.
April,
The
excuse me,
warrant with
May
our
14th.
votes and our reasoning, and then the letter to the town meeting members,
It's May 14th.
Everything is due May 14th.
May 14th, okay.
Yep, yes,
All right, I mean, I think that's.
we always say that, and then,
I know.
And then we read the letter.
I'm sorry, I had to step out. Did we schedule anything the 7th or 14th?
No.
Not yet.
Okay, thanks.
Do you have any thoughts, Derek?
Oh, no, I agree with what you said. It
I just
always
feel like
seems to
we
get
have so
backed
much
up
we
at the
have to
last
do.
minute. I think it's helpful, though, right now, because we can see what we can get from Gary in terms of the chart that we put in our letter, and that's something you were able to pull out pretty quickly last year. The pie chart that we put in our annual letter?
Yeah.
With all, it'll be, I would imagine that will be the same. And then it's just going through all the, I know it. What are the warrant articles? Is there anything that's going to take time?
We just talked
Yeah.
about that.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
So I'll put together a list of what we're looking at for the articles, just so we could kind of talk through them. We're still working on wording.
I know that the Charter Commission is looking to put charter recommendations. They're trying to get, we've been meeting for a long time, so that we're trying to pull together what the specific recommendations will be. They're not even really all decided yet, but we're optimistic, right?
Yes.
But is that going to be part of the warrant?
Yeah, it
It
has
is?
to be part of the
Okay.
warrant, yeah.
Because those are usually pretty big things, right?
Yep, they are,
Yeah.
yep. I can tell you right away, one of the things that will be on there is grammar and corrections to capitalization. That will be one piece of it, so that goes throughout the document. And then the other parts are going to, there's small changes, but there's a few changes that have been being discussed.
So on the
Anything-
21st, we want to meet, will we meeting on the 21st?
Preliminary warrant discussion,
Okay,
Yeah,
list
That's
of
my
warrant
thought.
articles,
okay,
yeah.
however,
I am
whatever
gonna miss
form
that
it's in
meeting,
at that
but
point.
it doesn't matter.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think what we did last year, and Brian was a big help with this,
well.
when we put through the,
You can't,
oh,
I won't be here on the 21st.
he won't be on the 21st. That's the reason why I didn't schedule a
Do you
meeting
have
for
a
the.
vacation or something that you can
Yeah.
change? No.
Not without getting divorced.
Saturday night won't be here the 21st either.
Well, okay, so, all right.
That's the end of that meeting.
But on the
Well, then we just ask for it to be on the 14th, but that, that's
On
pushing
the
it up.
narrative we did last year was pretty specific. I mean, we had graphs in there, and so I think we envisioned working on that in April. Once the committee recommends the Schedule A, then we can fill in all the correct information. I think we used the same template. That was a pretty good model for last year.
Okay.
Can anything get moved up to the 14th?
I can try to put the list of warrant articles together, but like I said, I don't know if we'll have like the charter review or CPC. I can ask them. I can try to put something together. We'll have things to review. I can certainly go through. A lot of it's, the usual.
Can you do your budget and the building department budget on the 14th?
Yeah.
Why don't we get some stuff out of the way?
Yeah, yeah,
Well, that's why
yeah.
I'm worried about
Yeah,
those
yeah.
3
No, we
empty
can-
weeks. It's crazy.
Yeah, also emergency management.
Emergency, does that fall under you, Sean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so anything that falls on the Sean, if we can get you on the 14th,
Yeah, this-
get that out of the way if you
All
think you can be
small,
prepared
yeah.
for it.
Can do that.
Yeah, good.
I
That was
feel
good.
like we've pushed everything back until
Get some
next thing you
stuff
know,
out
it's
of the way.
April.
Yeah, yeah.
Gary, I had a question, maybe it's a question for Sean. The community outreach group, is there a budget for them? Do they need,
No, there isn't.
so they're just doing that on their own as kind of volunteer
Yeah,
as part of their?
So that was one thing. I think this year we were busy with the school and the override, but, we'd like to do something to kind of create more of a community services department and so that we're offering services like this to the whole community and not just, well, this is, Council on Aging and this is, youth or this is veterans. It's just kind of, we're providing all services that we can. And because the group's been great, they've really done quite a bit, but they're all working kind of outside the scope of their general job and responsibilities on top of that. So probably next year it's something we're going to present in a more formal way.
So like a social service agency or something like that?
More of like a community services department,
Okay.
yes.
So Sean, or present EMA, Town Administrative Facilities,
And building.
and building, yep. Okay.
Okay. The schools we might need 2 sessions for them. I'm not sure, but I think it's gonna, when you add benefits, it's 60% of the budget. So, I'm not saying that, think about it now, but I know I'm gonna be doing a lot of, research and I know Brian's working on some certain metrics and stuff like that, and Bill's on the transportation, and Terry's working on some stuff, so, but I wouldn't put it out there yet, but, so, are we ready to talk about liaison reports? Go ahead.
I can if you want.
Okay, I want to talk about schools, so.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
So I met with the library on Tuesday, and the library director followed up on 2 things that she brought up during her budget review. So I know everybody's aware of the plumbing issue at Southworth Library. So the summary of that is, it's going to be more, and I think you've met since then, because I think she was meeting with you on Wednesday, maybe, or maybe today.
Yes,
But apparently it got more expensive. because-
everything does, right?
Doesn't it always? Because it's more than just pipe replacement, which is extensive enough and interesting to find old pipes that have no shutoffs, et cetera. I just found that interesting. But apparently, the small children's room on that bottom floor needs a major renovation as part of this. That was Tim Lancaster's opinion, I guess, and I guess some specialist is coming in to look at it. But it's going to be a lot more than the original ballpark figure of $100,000, is what I know.
I can provide detail. Do you want the detail? So, as you know, the pipe was rotted. We had an issue with the insulation around the pipe was asbestos, so we had to have that remediated. That's been completed. And then we're looking at $89,000 for the cost to replace the pipes, this steel corroded pipes with copper. One issue is there's the children's library room, which is downstairs, but then they have a kind of a programming room next to that. That ceiling has special tiles on it, they'll need to come down, so there's discussion about how we can do that with the least amount of damage. It's gonna be difficult, and how are we gonna replace that? So, we're gonna use some existing staff we have. Tim Lancaster thinks he can use some of the school's facility staff to do some of the work as well, to compensate them to save some money. So I think we're still looking at about $89,000 to do all that.
Do
Which-
all of it?
Yes.
That seems exceptionally low.
I mean, that doesn't include the asbestos, which we've already done.
Correct, of that part of the asbestos project, but that's a whole other discussion. So my question still would be, where is the money coming from?
This is an emergency repair, so we will be before the committee for a reserve fund transfer.
But we only have $85,000.
I know, so we'll have to kind of, beg, borrow, and steal from some.
That's all, I was just
there's
curious,
some
because I
article
had the
money.
impression it'd be a lot more money than that.
No, I think we discussed this today. The library has some article money for asbestos removal that they've had. This is kind of predates me. I think they thought there was some asbestos in the floor tiles, so they had funded the replacement. But as part of our analysis that we did, there's no asbestos in the floor tiles, but their money is available, so it's asbestos removal. So that was fortunate that we had that. So we can use that funding, which is still not enough, so we don't have the exact amount we'll need for the transfer, but it's not the whole 89,000.
I had the impression they were bringing in somebody to do an evaluation, a deeper evaluation than just the asbestos that's around the pipes, which I realize is gone, because of the issue about the floor tiles, that there was other asbestos, because they have,
They looked-
I don't know,
that's what they
looks like
looked at.
almost $100,000 from those 3 town meeting articles.
Right. I'm not sure the original article, how they determined that there was asbestos in the floor tiles. We had them evaluate that as part of when they went in to look at the insulation. They said that was not an issue. We couldn't find a report that was done
Right,
previously.
no, I know.
We looked everywhere.
That was interesting, yeah. No, I mean, those articles go back many, many years. I've been a town meeting member a long time, so I remember when they were voted. So the interesting thing is, where was that money all that time?
Oh, I mean, this is something we talk about in capital with the staff is, if you have a capital request, you've got to expend that money within 3 years, or don't ask for it. If it's not, that vital that you can go 3 years without replacing it. I think sometimes, and this is all communities where the departments sometimes feel like, well, I have to ask for capital every year, otherwise I'm not going to get capital when I ask for it. Not that they do that here, but sometimes that can be the mindset, so they always want to have a capital project to submit, but they don't have the capacity or the time to really get the projects done in a timely manner, so
So who follows up on that?
we do. So we send out a report more than annually saying, these are your outstanding capital articles, either close them out or finish them.
How did that happen? I'm just trying to understand what happened, because we're going
Well,
back
I
almost
think
10 years.
With the library, I mean, I can't speak, but I'm
No,
going
I
to guess
realize
that
you
the
weren't
previous
here.
director thought that eventually they're going to replace, they're going to deal with the tiles and get them replaced. Now, why that didn't happen, I can't speak to that.
Yeah, overall, we do analyze the outstanding articles that are out there, and we look to see whether or not these projects are short-term, long-term, or, and then make the department head know that, okay, you have a certain amount of time to use these articles, and if not, we rescind them, and then it falls back to available funds. But I think the exercise that we had, myself with the town accountant, we talked to the DPW director, for instance, and there were some articles that he, didn't have the need for at the time, and him being new, had to do the research to see whether or not those projects were still being in the works or being able to be completed. So we do monitor it every year. So how these, it could have been just the department had said, we're going to get it done, and then,
Well, I guess the
just
good
never got
news
done.
is they have the money now, because they certainly need it. All right. Thank you. Anyway, that was what happened at the meeting.
Yeah, as far as, the schools, I I won't bring up school choice again, but, because they already voted on it, and it's, the ship has sailed. But the budget, not the budget, the contract for the school buses, and the contract specifically says they can't have buses that are more than 3 years old. And to me, that's an opportunity, even though they are going to sign the contract, but it's year to year, with the town has 2 years of the options going down. So I think 3-year, having those buses, the depreciation on 3 years of a bus, or if they have lease, the bus company has a lease, is a very significant part of that cost of the buses. And I think 4 or 5 years, would be much more appropriate. Now, I did ask Jim Kiley about that, and he came back and said that the reason they do it is because the cost of repairs. But I've talked to Donna, and she's pulled invoices for me from the on the school contract, the old school contract, and we don't get charged for repairs. So if the contract says that the buses have to be legal, meet inspection requirements, to me, there's no reason why we can't extend that number so that the depreciation portion that the bus company has to eat will go down, and should drive down the cost of the buses. Because that's, yeah, I'm working on something. I'm just going to find out the cost of the bus and do a depreciation schedule and things like that, and figure out what the interest is and stuff like that, so that if you put out an RFP that says they can't be older than 3 years, then the bus company has to buy basically a third of the buses every year, brand new. And then at the end of the 3rd year, what do you do with the buses? And that's probably why they do leases, because they'll say, we're only going to have it for 3 years, so we're only going to do a 3-year lease. Well, a 3-year lease is a lot more money than a 5-year lease. So that's one of the things I'm working on.
I'm curious, do you know what other towns do?
I think it's changed a little bit. Actually, it used to be with the bus contracts, they would require all new buses every contract cycle. So they've kind of drawn back a little bit from that. Now it's 3 years. But most communities are at the 3 years. It gets, not the bus company, but I'm sure they do some sort of analysis where if the buses are older than 3 or 5 years, what their maintenance is, and they need the reliability of the buses. So do they have to purchase more buses or have more buses on hand in case, because the buses are getting older, they need to have them in service. So I'm sure there's some sort of numbers game they play to say how many buses they need and what the cost is overall, and to be profitable. But the big issue I think with the school, and Jim has alluded to it, is there's not a lot of bus companies anymore that are bidding on the contracts. So, it's
But-
a small monopoly.
If you say, just big numbers, if you say the town budget is $100 million, it's more than that, but say it's $100 million, then the school bus cost is 6 to 7% of the entire town's budget. So, and one member brought this to my attention, and I don't want to say who it was unless they want me to say who it was. There are some towns that charge for school busing, and we're going to have to take a look at that to see if that's allowed.
Well, it's obviously allowed. In Massachusetts, there's a lot of towns that do.
Yeah,
Did they try that here? I thought someone told me they tried that here years ago, or proposed it.
There was talk about it years ago. I don't think.
I was told they instituted bus fees, but then the select board was not happy with
Yeah.
that and changed that pretty quickly after.
Okay, well, it's just an avenue, So, and that's all I have on my liaison. Anybody else?
I have a DPW coming up on the 29th of this month. but
Okay.
Nothing before that.
I can add to the schools. The schools held their budget hearing, and they'll be voting on the budget on March 11th. And the bigger issue with the schools, of course, is that they're using school choice funds to bridge the gap this year. That does not increase the levy. So we can anticipate a similar issue next year, and I think it will be important for the Finance Committee to address that in their letter to town meeting, not that we can plan it, prepare it, decide whether we're going to do it, but it sure seems like that's where we're headed if we can't increase the levy, because the same budget problems will be there next year.
What do you mean by levy? You mean tax rate?
Well, not tax rate necessarily, but the amount of money that we use to fund the budget, the school choice money doesn't increase. It doesn't add to that. So once that's gone, I think he talked about maybe 500,000 left in there, and then they would use that for capital, which is what they've always done. That doesn't continue on into the next year. It's the same issue that we have. Maybe you could explain it better than that, Gary. Does that make sense, what I'm
Well,
saying?
the tax levy, the only thing that increases the tax levy is an override. So any supplemental money to a budget, or whether that be transfer from one account to another, does not increase the override. It's just a transfer. It's not really, the only thing that's permanent is
I think the bigger issue is if you trend and look at the costs of the school department, it goes up 4.3% a year since 2009. So the bigger issue for the town is that probably means there's going to be an override a lot, just to fund the school department. Doesn't include, even though you're planning long-term planning for things like the bridge, the landfill, the water system, the sewer system, even though it can be done over a 20 or 30-year period, that still gets tacked onto the tax levy for commercial, industrial, and residential. So, schools aside, tax levy is going up, or people have to be alerted to the fact that it probably will go up.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that in the presentation that we gave prior to the budget, which, yeah.
No, I mean, going up almost
Significant.
annually.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I mentioned this in that presentation. This is not unique to Dartmouth. I think a lot of communities are facing these issues with school budgets, and you see a lot more overrides. You know, I get emails from my manager group, and they're all facing budget deficits with their
But
schools.
all the more reason for transparency on the school budget metrics, to make sure people believe that they're getting efficient and effective use out of the schools and getting a decent student outcome for the amount of money that's being spent currently and that will go up in the future.
And just one other point about the schools this year. It's going to be tricky because comparing year over year, the fact that they're using school choice funds, and it looks like it's not a big increase, it's not going to be a big increase. And then the next year, if they don't use school choice funds, it's going to look like a huge increase. So one of the things I'm going to talk to Jim Kiley about is I'd like, when they present the budget, I'd like to do it, forget the school choice. What are the expenses from last year? If they didn't have school choice, what would be the expenses this year? So that we have a basis of comparison for the 3 years, because using $2 million of school choice money, if that's what they decide to use, kind of misrepresents the expenses for the year. So, and we've looked at the school budgets, I've looked at them for 5 years now, so we're losing that apples to apples comparison, because now you get, boom, you get this $2 million.
We're actually not, Bob, because the expenses are the expenses. When you look at the budgets every year, we're going to see what they actually are. The revenue is never in the school's budget.
But the thing is, and I talked to Donna and Gary about this, is they're going to take salaries that they pay, and it's not going to be in the budget. They're going to apply it to school choice, so you won't see that expense in there.
Well, that wasn't my understanding.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
How can you?
They're going to apply they're going to apply $2 million worth of school expenses to the school funds. It's going to go to against the school choice funds. So it will not be in the budget. those.
Is that
those
true?
specific- Yeah.
It has-
One and a
it has to
half.
be.
What's that?
1.5 million.
One and a
I'm
half.
confused
How
now.
can you-
I'm sorry, I'm
That's the
confused.
state law. The state law.
So confused.
In other words, school choice funds are going to pay those expenses, so they're not going to be in our budget.
So the school choice funds are revenues. So they get the revenues. So what they generally do is they put that revenue aside or they use it for, they weren't using all the revenues anyway. So they've got, this fund of school choice funds that carries over. So what they're trying to do next year is to use those funds to bridge the gap. So, and I think they have, I don't know what their balance is in that school choice account, and they're taking in generally about $600,000 a year in revenue. So I think they have some in kind of a stabilization fund that they carries over from year to year. I can't remember what the balance is on it, but we had it.
2,300,000.
But they're gonna use 1.5 of
Plus.
that to bridge the gap between the 3%, which we're
So what that
allocating
is,
for the
see what I'm
schools, and the 1.5% or 2% more that they need.
So the information that goes to town meeting will not have that in it? There's got to be a way that we can
has to
reflect
be.
that to people,
I know, I'm not
because
following
it's a real expense. I know that with grants, for example, that stuff doesn't get reported a lot of times, and that's been a concern of ours, because we know that there are grants that are funding certain things, but that's a lot of money to just remove from the budget and say, I think we need to think about how that's going to be
I think,
communicated.
I don't think it's, well, I don't want to say it's being removed, more so that they're bridging the gap with a one-time revenue. So those expenses will still be there if in fact the school needs it in fiscal '26. And they would have to demonstrate that need when the budget is presented in '26. And also at that point, what the funding source will be. Because it's not that they're removing it, it's they're reducing their budget, but the need still may be there for the schools. They're just using the school choice money to bridge the gap between what they,
I
the delta,
understand that, but the budget's on their website, and the budget is, I want to say 4-point-something increase from last year. Next year, I would imagine that the budget's going to be 4-point-something increase from this year.
If you
because
project
of
it,
the-
it's going to be 4.33
I'm sorry?
forever.
I'm sorry?
If you projected, going back in the data, back to 2009,
Yeah.
it's going to be 4.3% ad infinitum.
Yep, and I think that, there's a couple ways to look at that. One is, what I'm hearing from people here is that they should be cutting down on their budget. They should let people go, or, I don't know, close schools or whatever. And the other is that the cost of running the public schools to the capacity that we're looking for, what we want from students, is costing more than 2.5%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was my impression from I think it was the last school committee meeting, and I know you watched them, so, when they were talking about the budget in the very beginning of the meeting, that he was going to hold it to a 3% increase. That was his plan.
That's why I talked to Gary and Donna Fernandez, because I said to myself, if it's 3%, then, and they're spending 4.3%, where's that difference? And the reason they can do 3% is because the difference between a 1.3%
Is
is
the
going to
school
be paid for in school funds.
Right.
So it will not be part of the budget. And that's why when Jim Kiley comes here, he can present that, but I want to know, last year, projected this year, next year's budget without the school choice numbers, because that's how much the town is spending. But it's almost like the 1.5 million is like something that was put in reserve from past years that they didn't spend, that they're going to spend now. So it's important for apples to apples comparison, it's important to have that. So that's why
Well, the bigger issue is the longer-term trend, going out to 25, 26, 27, and what that represents. To me, that's the bigger issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think you saw that on their budget trend line where it's headed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could, there's some things we can do for a year or two to kind of not require an override. Like this year, we were able to make it work. Last year, we were able to bridge the gap with that one-time funding. So
I
I think you're seeing, last year was 588, this year it's 1.5, next year it's going to be.
I have
2.
bigger issues, because, when we went to one meeting, I don't want to get onto this, but we went to one meeting, it was 2.4 million. Then I asked a specific question when we went to one of the subcommittee group
Yes,
meetings.
yes.
I said, is everybody happy with that number? Is it 2.4? And everybody said, oh, yes. So came back, another meeting a week later, it was 2.7. And that was supposed to get us through 2 years, I believe, when you added it to the rest of the budget. So I have some questions about how all these numbers are put together and why they keep changing. I don't want them answered here, but I would like to know why. And I would like, it represents, since 2009, it's represented 55, as most towns are, it's the biggest piece of the budget. And in here, it's been at least 55% or more since 2009. And it's 55, what is it, 50, last time I saw $55 million, I think, or 56 million?
63% of the budget.
Right, and it's 63. Okay, 63, yeah. So my point, people have got to understand that they're getting value for money, and they're spending the money effectively and efficiently. They have to prove it, as far as I'm concerned.
But that 63% doesn't include benefits, right?
It does.
That's
it does,
everything,
yeah.
it's in toto, yeah.
Okay.
But it's still, it's the biggest piece of and I think it's the fastest growing piece, is it, overall,
Yes.
relative to town administration as well. So, I mean, this is like the elephant in the room.
Yeah, absolutely. But I know the school committee was confused too, if you watch the school committee.
I suggest that everybody watch that school committee meeting. It was enlightening in so
Yeah.
many ways.
Yeah. So, okay, anything else on liaisons? No?
Winding up my stem.
Okay, any minutes for approval?
Minutes, she just, for the 15th, she sent me today, so I'll include it on the next agenda.
Okay. I
It
mean, I
wasn't enough
looked at
time
them.
for
They
the,
looked
wasn't enough
pretty
time
good,
for the
but-
committee to review it.
Okay.
I just received them
Okay.
today.
Yeah, I thought they were pretty good.
Get them
Yeah, I got them in an email.
today?
No, I didn't-
Okay.
I didn't
No,
see it.
I think they only go to Bob and I, but I'll include them. When I
Okay.
send out, before I send out the next agenda, I'll include
Yeah.
them.
I mean, I looked at them, they look pretty good, but everybody's got to get them, so.
I don't
Yeah.
know, because Bob
They
takes his
came
time
in too
sending
early.
that stuff.
No, he sends me.
I send them out.
Thank goodness.
Okay, anything else? Somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I will make that motion.
Okay, Brian makes a motion to adjourn,
Second.
second by John. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Good. All right, thank you.